I suck.
I may not look like I suck, but I do.
Van Jones sucks.
I've been sucking on TV since I was 10.
Everywhere I could suck, I would suck.
I've sucked in over 90 countries.
Democrats, Republicans, independents, we all suck.
You know who else sucks? Kendrick Sampson.
I'm Kendrick Sampson, and I suck.
We suck together.
Sure, I've sucked, but Una sucks even more.
Una sucks.
And I suck. And I suck.
And I suck. When someone tweets, I suck, I'm like, I know.
Statistically speaking, most of us suck. Most of us suck every day.
Suck, suck, suck.
Suck.
Today, you probably used one of these.
500 million plastic straws are used in this country.
Every single day.
And many end up in the ocean, polluting water and killing sea life.
If we don't act now, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
You know, like you go snorkeling, you look down, and you don't see fish, you see plastic.
But there's something you can do about it.
I will stop sucking.
I will stop sucking.
We will all stop sucking.
We will all stop sucking.
If you do.
Hashtag stop sucking.
It's awesome. What an amazing PSA, man. Tell me about making that.
Yeah, how fun is that? Well, you know, when you think about all the problems in the world, sometimes it can be so overwhelming that you just want to shut down, turn off, get apathetic. But we can't make these changes if people are shut down and turned off. So we got to get people excited, have a little fun, show some levity, and really, I mean, it's the truth. We got to stop sucking.
I mean, tell me about the Lonely Whale Foundation that you started a while ago. Where does the name come from? I love the story.
So the Lonely Whale Foundation came out of a documentary that we were making about the loneliest whale in the world. Now, the loneliest whale is an actual creature. He's a whale that swims up and down the Pacific coast, and he's calling out, but he's singing at a different frequency than other whales. Now, if you know anything about whales, they're highly sentient, very social, perhaps more social than humans, and they hang out in pods their whole life. So you can imagine if this whale is calling out his whole life and never once receiving a response, he must be lonely. But we were inspired by him because we feel like we are all looking for connection too. We all want to bond together over our shared values. And so that's how the foundation was born. And of course, we're trying to help whales and marine wildlife in the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, you're an actor with some notoriety. I mean, obviously you could point the lens wherever you wanted. What made the ocean sort of the cause that you wanted to dig in on?
I realized that the oceans have gone vastly underserved for way too long. It's 2/3 of our planet and our environment. You know, climate change has its place in the world stage, but the oceans are this distant, far off, unrelatable, abstract thing that's over there and deep and dark and weird and mysterious. It doesn't relate to our everyday experience, so it's easy for us to just ignore it. So we wanted to get people out and bonded with the ocean and start to understand it a little more, demystify it, so that we can have some empathy. If you can't connect, you can't care. And for the most part, that's the way it's been. And now we want people to bond with the wonder, the beauty, the necessity of the ocean.
Yeah. I think people obviously know Entourage, Vinny Chase, that whole thing. I mean,
obvious.
one of my favorite scenes is when Matt Damon's calling you and trying to force you to give to charity. You know, he's screaming at you, he's cursing at you. The actual thing is, I've interacted with you a few times. You're one of the most charitable guys that I know in the business. I mean, when did this all start for you? When did this sort of cause-based lifestyle start?
It's for the kids, man. You got to do it for the kids. You know, and if you look at these stats, you know, in our lifetime, we're going to be swimming in oceans that have plastic and no fish. Our kids are going to be, you know, swimming on beaches, you know, with, you know, plastic littering them. And that's not just going to be our kids, it's going to be our grandkids. Many, many generations from now, they're going to be dealing with our decisions of today. So Matt Damon is right. Do it for the kids. Let's do it for the kids.
I love that. I mean, you've gotten to have a few sort of experiences I'm sure have shaped your viewpoint on the oceans. Can you tell us a little bit about getting out there, diving, you know, interacting with the marine wildlife?
You know, I learned to dive maybe 15 years ago, and in that time, I've seen a great, you know, downfall of our marine fisheries. When I go swimming or in the ocean now, I don't see a lot of fish, because we're overfishing. We're dumping 500 million plastic straws go into the waste stream. Many of them end up in the ocean, but that's 10 million tons of plastic every year go into the ocean. And of course, eventually it's gonna add up, right? So a couple years ago, I did a swim with Richard Branson. Actually, was it last year? No. A year ago. A year ago, I did a swim with Richard Branson through the Strait of Messina. Do you know where that is? Americans? No?
Pop quiz.
So the Strait of Messina is the gap of open ocean between Sicily and Italy. You know the boot and the ball, right? Everybody knows that. So basically, I swam from the boot to the ball. And it's some of the most treacherous waters in the world. Mythologies were built around it. It's in the Odyssey. So it's really, a lot of currents. It's where the open ocean meets the Mediterranean, so there's a lot of different currents going. So anyway, it's 3.3 kilometers. It took me 1 hour and 45 minutes. No breathing apparatus, just me in the open ocean facing the elements. And I did it for, to bring awareness to our oceans.
I think I remember seeing you do that swim, and you actually had a happy birthday balloon tied, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a story of why you did that?
Yeah, so we have our Stop Sucking campaign going, but the next one might be Stop Blowing. Because...
very controversial.
Yeah, we just want to go deeper and deeper down this. It's one thing that we don't think about, right? I mean, straws we don't think about. We encounter them many times a day, and we're just blindly just using them, not recognizing.
Multiple times a day, absolutely. Getting a new coffee,
constantly.
A new juice, whatever.
Yeah. So we're tackling that as sort of a gateway. We're starting like a straw-sized step towards this bigger problem. But yeah, there's lots of plastic issues. Plastic bags, which many of us are aware of, and water bottles. But balloons, there are so many balloons out there in the ocean. In fact, when we do beach cleanups, that's one of the main items that we find. And it's like a birthday balloon. One human's moment of joy, celebrating life, is hundreds of years of death in the ocean. It's just so ironic, right? And you're celebrating, it's supposed to be a happy day. Well, it's happy for you, right. But a lot of these balloons, you release them, you go, oh, wow, okay, anyway. And then that balloon ends up, going into the ocean and doing what straws are doing. They're killing marine wildlife. Yeah,
and you just came across one while you were training for that swim, right?
Exactly, yeah. I was out in Long Island, I was training, and if anybody's ever... Long Island, yeah. If anybody's ever swam in the open ocean, it's very scary, right? You're facing the abyss. There's something very existential about it. You're like just you alone facing, this mysterious unknown below. And we humans want to, mediate everything because the world is scary, the unknowns are scary. So that's part of the reason why we aren't out in the water enough, because it seems so scary. Is a shark gonna get me or something? But statistically speaking, you're safe. So it's really all in your head. So there's a very, meditative, spiritual aspect to it. Anyway, I was not particularly spiritual or zen in this moment because I was scared. It was cold, it was getting dark, I didn't know what was out there. And then I look and there was something floating. So then I'm like, what is that? And I look and then I got a little closer and I realized it was a birthday balloon floating in the middle of the ocean. And I was so upset, I put it in my pocket and started swimming. And the guy I was training with, he said, after the balloon incident, you swam with more confidence, more force, fearlessness. And then I realized, I was connected to my purpose. When I found the balloon, I realized why I was swimming. And I think that's a good lesson, because life can be daunting and scary, and you may not want to get out of bed. But if you're connected to purpose, if you know why you're doing it, things just melt away, and you can be fearless.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about daunting, I mean, this is a huge endeavor, obviously. It's about finding the right partners, the right companies, the right personalities to sort of attach yourself with. I mean, what companies are out there doing the right thing that you can sort of throw some awareness to? I think Soma, you have a partnership with Soma, is that correct? Or
Well, yeah. So we have some reusable water bottles that you can get on our website, lonelywhale.org. But right now, what's happening is all this energy. There's been, I think we've gone viral, right? Everybody's been talking about this. In fact, people come up to me on the street and they're like, "I stopped sucking because of you." And I'm like, "Great, that's weird, but awesome."
Now stop blowing.
Right, and that's next. But all this energy, now that people have made the pledge, now they're directing their energy to make local change. So they're starting to go to local restaurants, and all of you can do this. We have a toolkit on our site, strawlessocean.org, and it tells you, it gives you the tools so you can go into your local establishment and say, "Hey, I come here a lot. I like this place. It's my favorite bar, whatever. Can you guys make it easier for me and switch to marine-friendly paper?" We've pre-negotiated a paper straw that's on parity with plastic so that it's not a cost detriment. It's easy for them, and they're doing the right thing. And now you've made that much more change because you've gotten a restaurant to eliminate however many straws they use every year. So it's not just a personal choice, now it's expanding outward.
And tell me a little bit about some of the people that you brought into the PSA, some people that you've sort of reached out to, and who has been, obviously you have a new PSA about Seattle. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so again, we're taking these steps, right? And now, personal change, then local business change. And we went to Seattle, and that's our first pilot program, Strawless in Seattle, where we...
Catch you again, you guys have it down.
We're funny guys. So we challenged Seattle to stop sucking. We got 250 restaurants to make the pledge and convert to marine-friendly paper. The airport, the Space Needle, both major sports stadiums, Safeco Field and the Seahawks Stadium, and so it really took off. And actually, that energy, that momentum, allowed the local governance to actually make laws that will ultimately ban single-use plastic straws and utensils in July of next year.
That's amazing. There's a round of applause for that. Please, guys, absolutely. Bring it to New York next, please.
Well, next year we're doing 10 cities, and if you guys want to nominate New York...
Guys, let's nominate New York. I think New York can do this for sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously now it's a scary time now with climate change, obviously. There's a lot of things going on in the world, hurricanes, people we know are in disaster areas. I mean, being around the scientists while you're doing this sort of work, what are you hearing from them, from the biologists, from the scientists?
Well, it's not pretty. Yeah. It's very scary. There's a lot of unknowns, but the things that what we do know is that humans actually affect the planet. We do. You matter. You matter when you're doing things that are positive and constructive, and you matter when you're, just being an ignorant and, thoughtless, careless consumer. So we have to make lifestyle changes, but we also have to make demands from our governments to, help make those changes in the private and public sector. So, I know a lot of people ask me, like, why straws when there's climate change and you see all these storms and, it's definitely exacerbated. So why straws? I'm like, well, to me, it's all connected. It's if you're sitting here feeling helpless about what's happening down, in the Caribbean or earthquakes or whatever, you may not be able to do something directly, but you can start somewhere, and that will lead to a holistic change. Next thing you know, you'll divest from oil, which I did. I don't know, and then you can go from there. So, I think just make a change, and then the rest will follow.
The coral reefs as well. I mean, tell us.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in a bad situation right now.
Yeah. Well, we don't realize how delicate the marine and environmental ecosystem is. We're in a delicate balance that took however long, billions of years to get to this very, specific mixture of all of these different elements acting together in perfect harmony. It's crazy. And so we don't really know what's going to happen if we disrupt one part of the environment or the other. We know sharks, for example. Sharks are apex predators. And there's this thing called Trophic Cascade. Trophic Cascade, where if you start to disrupt the apex predators and the ones at the top of the food chain, ironic, you'd think they would help all the smaller fish, but it's actually the opposite because everything is in such balance. So we need to help the whales, we need to help the sharks, but also the corals, right? Because that's where all the fish are breeding inside of the corals. And because of climate change and the temperature rise in the sea, it's creating conditions that corals just won't be able to survive in, and they're actually dying. That's what happens when they get bleached. They're just basically, they're dying, and what you're seeing left behind is their skeleton. That's why it's white.
It's dire. I mean, tell me a little bit about you've gotten to go on a couple of shark swims. What's that experience like for people who haven't had the chance?
You know, you got to give over to nature. You know, you got to give your faith to nature. It's a very humbling experience when you're on, the ocean's terms. And I think it's important for human beings to humble themselves. We, as a species, we're so focused on survival that we've done all this. We've poured a bunch of concrete. We have dominion over the planet. We're trying to hang on. But we need to start relenting a little bit and check ourselves and humble ourselves to the necessity of all of nature to help us so that we can work in harmony with it.
How many people are making the correlation between you doing this and Aquaman, and you playing Aquaman in Entourage?
Yeah.
You are the real-life Aquaman.
You know, and I'm damn proud of it. So, I could dress up in a fancy outfit, get a couple $1 billion spent on making a movie to make me look like a cool guy, or I could just do stuff that's really, a lot of this work isn't that sexy. It's infrastructure. We need good infrastructure around the world. We need ways of collecting plastic trash so it doesn't end up in the ocean. A lot of developing nations don't have the facilities to be able to deal with this stuff. Even here in first world countries, we're not able to recycle plastic straws because we don't have the machines that would collect them and separate them. So it's just a lot of boring stuff, and I'm proud to be doing that work. And by the way, I did challenge Jason Momoa to stop sucking, and he has not answered.
Get him there. Let's hit him up on Twitter. Let's hit him on Instagram.
If Jason Momoa wants to be Aquaman, he'd better start acting like Aquaman.
There we go. I like it. The gauntlet is thrown down. I love that. Are you surprised at how many of the movies you guys made in Entourage are actually being made now? The Aquaman, the Median, Smoke Jumpers, Only the Brave is coming out now. I mean, it's Gatsby,
Yeah, there was, it's funny, Doug Ellen, had his finger on the zeitgeist somehow, and he was able to, intuit what was happening and put it into the show, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Jerry, aka Turtle, told me that you guys actually had a whale experience
while you
guys were filming Entourage.
Yeah. There's actually one of the few times I've seen whales, ironically, because I have a foundation called the Lonely Whale. But we were shooting the scene where we're in Mexico. And the little secret is we were actually shooting in Hawaii.
Film magic, guys.
And we were on jet skis, and the guy who was guiding us, we were on radio on walkie, and he's like, turn off your engines. So we turn off our engines, and he says, don't be afraid, look below. And you look down, and there are these huge, enormous, just majestic creatures just slowly gliding below us. I think it was like a mom and a baby. It was very cute.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, do you miss those guys ever? I mean, now that you guys have wrapped up the movie and hopefully there's going to be a sequel. Is there going to be a sequel? Come on.
I think there should be. Yeah. But it's probably not going to happen. I think we have a better chance of saving the planet than that, which we're going to do, right? Yeah, but I think, why not? Like, there's a lot of rehashed, old movies and stuff. Harrison Ford's in every other, redux of something, so.
What was it like to sort of get in that Mark Wahlberg mentality that you sort of had to do? I think there was a first trip to Vegas. You guys sort of observed him and his crew for the first time. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, well, this is going way back in the day. I feel like I'm starting to reminisce. It's like so long ago.
You don't look it, man. You don't look it. You look good.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a New Yorker. I lived in New York. I didn't really know much about Hollywood, and so I had to do a crash course in what it was like to be a big super movie star. So I just basically trailed Mark Wahlberg to Vegas in the private plane with all the boys, in the late nights, and basically I had to have an Entourage night. And wow, like it was eye-opening, and we just put all that energy into the pilot episode.
It's amazing. I mean, I also have followed your documentary work. Obviously, you made one about the lonely whale, but those teenage paparazzo and Shot in the Dark. Can you tell me about, are you going to make another documentary soon? And what was it like sort of getting into those causes for a long time?
Yeah, so our next film is The Loneliest Whale in the World. So it's about our hero mascot character, our figure, the real creature who's basically calling out to his to other whales, but not getting a response. But guess what? We heard him. So it's this beautiful movie about what it means to be connected to one another and the planet and our destiny.
Yeah. What do you like about sort of getting behind the lens and sort of getting to shoot something like this and live with it for a while? How long have you lived with this project? It's been a while at this point.
No documentary project I've ever done has been easy. It's quite a feat, and every time I go see a movie, especially documentaries, I'm just in awe that it even got made. There's just, I think, a secret appreciation for anything that even gets made. It's been a few years, and frankly, it's right on target time-wise. These things take a long time, and you're trying to solve a bunch of problems, financial problems, storyline problems, a lot of different, obstacles that you have to overcome. So it's really not that long. It seems like long, but it's actually right in the median zone for all films I've ever made.
That's amazing. Well, I think we have some questions out in the audience, so we're going to go out there.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for being here and bringing attention to plastic waste. My question deals with, as you mentioned, Seattle. I'm originally from Seattle, so I'm really proud of Lonely Whale connecting with the Mariners and the Seahawks. So my question's twofold. Do you see paper straws being implemented across the MLB, NFL, and the soccer stadiums? And also, what would you say to people who aren't necessarily environmentally inclined, that they need some sort of monetary incentive? You mentioned plastic bags, and that's been incentivized for people to recycle plastic bags. So how can we inspire people to switch over to paper straws?
Yeah. Well, I empathize. There are very practical things we all have to consider, financial and otherwise, but let's just call it what it is. The plastic lobby, plastic companies are making money, lots of money, at our expense. It's an added tax to us, to our lifestyles, to our health, when this toxic material ends up in our waterways and in the oceans. Who's going to pay to clean that up? That's a cost that we shouldn't have to pay for. So not only are we paying for the plastic in the outset, then we got to pay to clean it up. When we could just pay one cost in the beginning for a marine-friendly, alternative, and maybe it's slightly more expensive, but the economics over the long run are far better than, subjecting our youth and our kids and our next generations to have to clean it up for us. So it's just the right thing to do, and it also makes economic sense. Yes, I would love for bigger companies and organizations to start adopting the stop sucking philosophy and to use other alternative straws. If MLB wants to come on board, the NFL, amen. But right now, again, we're starting with straw-sized steps. We're very excited that Seattle has made all the changes that it has, and that the stadiums there have done that, and I think it will catch on. Again, we're doing 10 cities next year, and then after those 10 cities are done, why not do all the cities, right? I think the next step after that is everything. And it's also other corporate responsibility, right? I mean, Starbucks, right? We're in Seattle. Starbucks, I think, needs to step up, and hashtag stop sucking, hashtag Starbucks, as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. Next question, right there.
Entourage question. When was the last time you had a reunion with everyone and saw everyone?
I miss those guys. It's been a while. I do live in Brooklyn, so they're in LA. I don't get to see them as much as I'd like to, but I think we're due for sure.
You should film it while you're doing it next. Next question.
Hey, I know that you're involved with the Stop Sucking campaign, but is there like any other charities that you are involved with that you're passionate about?
You know, I for a while I couldn't choose. I just wanted to be of service to as many different campaigns and charities as I could. I've been focusing for the most part on the oceans and with the Lonely Whale Foundation, but you know, you know this. I've made a lot of films about different topics, celebrity obsession in our country, and the war on drugs. All of these things I think are important to at least be aware of and try and help in any way we can, because look, the failed war on drugs is devastating to real people and communities, and we're all affected by it because it's decimating our brothers and our sisters and our fellow human beings. So yeah, that's another issue that I'm very passionate about.
There we go. Well, this is the main issue. At Lonely Whale, hashtag Stop Sucking. Thanks so much for being here,
Yeah,
Adrian.
thank you. And
Here we go. Get a warm round of applause.
StrawlessOcean.org.
StrawlessOcean.org. Thank you.